Hey there, math fans. Going to continue talking about applications of Taylor series. Here I will talk about approximating and analyzing important functions. Primarily, I will talk about analyzing the so-called bell curve and saying some things about it. I wouldn't necessarily say this is the most important application, but it is an important application. Here are three examples of functions that come up, and I'll talk about those in just a second. The sinc function, which comes up in data processing and in physics. The Fresnel integrals, sine of x squared, cosine of x squared. I think I read that these come up in electromagnetism or something. I'm no expert on that. And then the error function, which is what comes up in the bell curve. All of those are functions that are hard to integrate or work with or compute. And you can actually use the things you learned in Math 125 about doing Riemann sums to get an approximation, but the Taylor series is way faster. So it's really practically one of the best ways to analyze these functions. So how do we do it? These functions aren't the same as these functions. They're slight variations on a theme. Now, one of the challenges students have is just look at how much notation that is. So this is when students start to get mad. They're like, too much notation, my eyes hurt. Why are we doing this? Math is stupid. I hate you, Dr. Lovelace. That's what they say. Okay, they don't say that. They don't say that directly. They imply that. Okay, so we're going to do this plus 1 over 5 factorial z to the fifth, and so on. At some point, I tell students, initially when you're struggling with notation, it's good to remove the notation altogether and just look at the first few terms. Eventually, you're going to get sick of doing that, and you will naturally want to use the notation. I really love Taylor series. This doesn't bother me, but maybe it's because I've seen some applications and I see the good it will do me, and I hope to get you all to that same point. Okay, I think that the majority of other departments, because we partially teach Taylor series at UW the way we teach it because of other departments. If it was up to me, we would just do the fun stuff. But other departments say you must do error bounds, you must do these other things, because they want you to come into physics and engineering with that background. And they want us to do the grunt work. Okay, so anyways, let's talk about these things for a second. These functions aren't the same. This function, the sinc function, is actually sine of x over x. And there's a subtlety of what do we do when x is 0? Well, we define it to be the limit, which is 1. That's a discussion for another day. So what we do is we build towards that function by replacing z with x. And an interesting thing happens. You get the integral, and we're just going to replace this with s, this with x, this with x. So we're going to have x minus 1 over 3 factorial. And students are like, what is going on? There's too many symbols. Why would anyone do this? Because it gives you a polynomial. And not only that, it gives you a polynomial that can divide by x. I think the fact that you have dot, dot, dot is partially what bothers everybody. And of course, that's something in math we do have to make precise, but you can see what happens when you divide by x. It just knocks all the powers down by 1. 3 factorial x squared. I like integrating Taylor series. If we only had to work with Taylor series, we could integrate everything. Math 125 would suddenly become much easier. And now we can integrate term by term. X minus 1 over 3 factorial 1/3 x cubed plus 1 over 5 factorial 1 to the fifth x to the fifth. And here we have the function. There's going to be a plus c. That would always depend on how we want to deal with the bounds, but now we have it. So let's go back and write down, if someone asks me to compute an integral of the sinc function, usually to help us deal with the bounds, people write like integral from 0 to t, and then you don't have a c and you can just put a t in there. So maybe I'll use that convention. But I can just write, this is the pattern. It starts off t, and then there's a 1 over 3 factorial times 3, and there's a 1 over 5 factorial times 5, and then a 1 over 7 factorial times 1/7, and so forth. Again, like I said, at some point you're going to get sick. I'm already sick of writing that out. I think it is time. Time has already come. So what we have is, and now when you think through it, once you get comfortable with this, you go, oh, we're just doing this, except we knocked the power down by 1. So we did this. That was the sinc function. And then we integrated, which made it become t to the 2k plus 1 divided by 2k plus 1. I know the notation is too much for most people, but like I said, eventually you're going to want it. Integral, and it's not that bad. The coefficients don't change. All this stuff in front here is the same. And the only thing we integrated was t to the 2k. And that becomes t to the 2k plus 1, 1 over 2k plus 1. And there is our function. There's the integral of the sinc function. And in many ways, it's the best answer we can give. Because if you need to know what the integral is from like 0 to 2, you just start plugging 2 into this. And it converges very quickly because the denominators are so big. This is going to be t, 1 over 3 factorial, 1/3, t squared. And so for things that involve these 3 functions, they converge very quickly. ... Okay. Now that sounds like a lot of math speak. Again, I didn't think this was going to be the application. No, maybe none of these applications will get you excited about this, but I do want to pull up just briefly. Here's the little thing on Taylor series. Here's the sinc function. If it's interesting to you, SINC. It's used, you can see a little like data blip there, digital signal processing. And integrating this sometimes is important in that discussion. Okay, and really this is the best way to deal with it, in my opinion. Give the Taylor series. You can see, I believe pretty early on here, they give the Taylor series. Sorry, the scrolling is no good. Okay, so what about the Fresnel integrals? Well, let's see if we can do this one a little bit faster. Let's integrate from 0 to t. We'll play the same game. At this point, I'm done doing the long, messy, afraid of notation. We're not afraid anymore. Okay, so I would just like to replace this. The other way you can do this is start taking derivatives and searching for a pattern, but I much prefer doing this. We're going to replace this with x squared. And the part that scares students is I have a lot of students that are like, I have no idea what to do with this, which is a little sad. You could just run an experiment. If you didn't know what this was, do this, and then just write out what it means, x squared. I've seen students do this on a final, which sort of makes me happy and sad at the exact same time. Happy because they were listening to me, but sad because they don't know the rule. You just have to count 6. Oh, it's multiply. I need to multiply those two things, so it's x to the 4k plus 2. There we go. And that's it. It's going to become x to the 4, so t to the 4k plus 2 when we plug it in, but then we're going to have to integrate. So let's write it. Let's see if we can handle this. The integral from 0 to t, the sum. Part of the challenge is just there are so many symbols in one place, but embrace it. If this is the worst thing we have to do today, we're doing pretty good. Okay, we have this, and then we just said it's going to be x to the 4k plus 2. Yay. At that point, we are done. Why are we done? Because this is the only variable. When we integrate that, it's going to become x to the 4k plus 3. You're adding 1, and then you're going to divide by that same number. That's the only integral rule you need to know for Taylor series. And there's our pattern. So we can just put it right in there. So let's get rid of all this. This is really bad. Students hate when you do stuff like this and erase, and erase, and erase, and here's our answer, x. But you're not taking notes. Who would be taking notes on a video? Who would be even watching this video? If you're watching, give me a comment and say, I was watching. The sad thing is I'm going to look in a week and no one will have made a comment, so I won't know if anybody was watching. And you'll say, nobody was. You're wasting your time. All right, I get it. So there you go. You can do the same thing with cosine. Replace that with x squared. Integrate. I think I'm going to leave that as an exercise. Those integrals, because I want to get to the bell curve, and I know this is already getting too long, are these Fresnel integrals. I'm just picking things that have names and come up in some important situations, and we don't really have any way to integrate them directly. Okay, last piece. Somebody get rid of this. See ya. So last piece, let's talk about the error function. If you're wondering where this 1 over root 2 comes from, I have a separate video where I derive it. I made that a while back on one of my favorite integrals. But we'll pull that out. This function is not, you can't really integrate it by any of our methods because of the x squared. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace this function. If you integrate this from negative infinity to infinity, it turns out this is 1, representing 100%, and that's where this number comes from. It's the number you have to have there in order to make it 1. Okay. And it's a fun little exercise in polar coordinates if you've never seen it, how we can integrate and get the value for that. But what I would like to do is ask, well, what if we want to do some probability stuff? And if you haven't taken probability, a big part of what you do, you talk about, I remember taking a course in statistics talking about z-scores and t-scores and having to figure out this area. Like the back of our book had tables. I'm sure students don't have to look in the back of the book anymore for z-scores. But it was given something that has a normal distribution. What are the probabilities like that the bus will arrive in the next 5 minutes? And you often have to look things up like this. I also remember this rule about this, whatever it was, 68, 95, 98, something like that rule. I clearly don't remember it, but it was the sum of these probabilities. That if you're within one standard deviation, it's 68.2%. If you're within 2 standard deviations, it's 68.2 plus these two 13.6s, and you keep going. All right. And that's part of that theory you do. How are those numbers computed if we can't actually integrate this? Well, you could say, well, they probably do Riemann sums. Well, you could do Riemann sums, and it'll give you a pretty precise answer, but even better would be to do the Taylor series approach. So let's integrate. Let's pretend it's 0 to t. Let's play the same game. Let's pull out this constant. And then let's replace this with its Taylor series, which we know we can do. The Taylor series for e to the z has a nice pattern. It's the one that has the factorials. So let's write that out. It doesn't have the plus minus. We don't have to worry about that. And we just need to replace the z with this. And once we're done simplifying that, we'll integrate and we'll be done. It's really not very long. If we can just withstand a tiny bit of notation, this is not as bad as students initially think it is. It's just too many symbols. And you're trying to learn how to write the infinity symbol. I get it. Trying to learn how to write the sigma symbol and not laugh about the fact that it's sigma. So sigma, my kids say. Oh, I did something there that I often talk to students about, which is you need to get comfortable simplifying this. And it's better in the long term if you can just simplify that in one step. Usually we like to pull the negative 1 out. You don't have to. We definitely like to write 1 over 2 to the k. We like to write. The reason you want to be able to do that is precisely because what is about to happen. In order to integrate, it's not nice to integrate this because the x squared is trapped inside. It is nice to integrate if it's outside here. That's it. So we're one step from being done. Let's erase this. And here we go. So this is going to become x to the 2k plus 1, 1 over 2k plus 1. That is how hard it is to integrate Taylor series. Not hard at all. And that's the only thing that changes. And then we're going to replace it with a t, and we're done. That's it. That is the value of the bell curve given as a Taylor series. And that Taylor series converges very fast and gives extremely accurate values. But it's going to look like this. The sum from k equals 0 to infinity. So again, I don't mind writing all this notation because I see the value and what we're going to get. And this is a very good answer. This is really as good as almost any other function you could have because you can actually compute this. 2k plus 1. You just need to compute the first few values and it's going to be really accurate. I believe I said I was going to put a t there. I can't follow my own advice. This is it. To me, that's probably one of the best answers for what this is. Once we understand that that's not that bad. Okay, so let's I'm going to widen my window here and show you a few calculations to finish this up. Again, I'm not trying to sell anybody on this. I just am showing you some things that I hope will make this interesting. So here's what I got. That little red line is just my error. You can see the error is really small. I've drawn the second Taylor polynomial. So you can see it's not going to be great. I mean, it's going to be pretty good, actually, within one standard deviation. And let's do one standard deviation. So let's do -1 to 1. Okay, -1 to 1. So the integral I get, you can see it on the left, the precise value, and it's funny to say precise value because that's just the value you get by whatever approximation Desmos uses. And they may be using a Taylor series. I don't really know precisely what Desmos uses, but they got 0.68. That's that probability that you're within one standard deviation. My second Taylor polynomial, meaning I only had to go to the second term here. So I did 1 over the square root of 2 pi. And then I plugged in 1 and -1 to this piece here. And I think we have, yeah, we do have symmetry, so I can factor out a 2. But I'm just going to plug in a 1 there. And that's it. Then I can just write down the first few terms. What are the first few terms? Well, it's 1 over 0 factorial, which is 1. 2 to the 0, which is 1. And the other one, which is 1. So the first term is just 1. That's what I get when I plug in 1. The second term is going to be minus 1 over 1 factorial to 1 over 3. And it's not, this is hard for students, I notice at times, just being able to plug in a 1 for all those things. There's the first couple terms if you plug in a 1. If you plug in a -1, you get the exact same things, but with the opposite signs. So that's the first couple terms. And I realize now you couldn't see that. It's just like my normal class. I cover things up, nobody can see. It makes for good teaching. Anyways, that is that initial approximation. I can calculate it by hand. The only part is I can't really calculate 1 over root 2 pi. I guess I could get an estimate for it. Anyways, that's what that gives me. It's already really accurate to 2 decimal places. And if it's not accurate enough, let's go to the third Taylor polynomial. Third Taylor polynomial. So the top one is still the same one. The other one, now it's correct to 3 digits, just by adding a couple more numbers. Let's go to the fourth Taylor polynomial. We keep gaining digits. And you can see it's going to be really close because the graphs are so close. This gives us a way to give as many digits as we want, and that's what a Desmos is doing. They're doing some sort of method that just keeps giving more and more accurate digits until it fills up the display and then it stops. This gives a good way to do that. Okay, so there you go. So there's some examples of analyzing some important functions. I hope you found that interesting. It gives a standardized way to analyze lots of functions that related to sine and cosine in e to the x. Again, to me personally, that's not the most exciting example, but it is an important one, and I wanted to include it in this series. All right.